Hello, my friends. Do not adjust your television screens. Do not get freaked out. The podcast has returned. It's probably still going to have my name in it because clearly I'm an arrogant person. But just to get it right off the bat, we're going to rebrand it. I'm going to get this wrong. I just got it wrong. It is now the Positive Wrestling Power Podcast, or the PWP. And that is because the one thing that people ask me to do all the time is get back to the podcast. But the podcast game has evolved, right? You go look at anyone that's doing it now. You have visual setups. You have people all over the place. It doesn't, and nor do I want it to be me just talking into a microphone anymore. As much as people are very nice about that, I kind of felt like it had a shelf life. So there's lots of things going on in the background, but we just decided, you know what? Let's get it out the door now, and we can start recording, which is why you'll be able to see him on the screen right now. I'm joined by my man, one half of TBA. I'm just going to call him Scott, man, and then he's going to take over. I don't want to drop your last name because people may come attack you on the internet. That is what happens. That's 100% that will happen.
Well, I thought you were going to hit a Logan Paul and call me Sean or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're using government names over on the PWP, more abbreviations.
Do you know what? We'll get to that in a minute. Do your shtick, and then that's where I'm going to start, right there. We've got no plan for this podcast, by the way, if anyone cares. I like to wing it. But yeah, tell everyone who you are and all that nonsense. I'm going to imagine a lot of people watching this already know, but for those that don't, that just watch my content, because you're very nice people, yeah, go pimp all your wares.
My name's Scott. So this is for like an AA meeting, doesn't it? My name's Scott, and usually we'll have another head here that looks very similar to me, just 6 years older, and that is my tag team partner. And that isn't just a weird euphemism. That is, we are wrestlers, as is Simon, and we are called TBA because, again, we want abbreviations. The PWP has TWA, TBA, and this is where we're at. So if you think of Simon and you think, oh God, he's so positive. It's almost unbearing. He's met his match in us. There's now 3 of us, but as of today, 2 of us.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. And that's the thing. Look, because of me, it's always me. It's never anybody else. It's always me. There will probably be the co-host will always be, hopefully it'll be all 3 of us, and hopefully eventually we'll be able to get in the same room. But this is the idea, because I think it's just fun to bounce ideas off people and just having a chat about wrestling. And yeah, down in UPW, which for the people that watch all my stuff is where the only promotion that will book me as a heel, me, Scott, and Joey all came together as Super Money. Very sadly, not long for this world. Different story for a different day. Don't want to rest upon it. But we do have a very similar take when it comes to wrestling. So I was like, if there's anybody I can talk about this with, it's got to be these guys. But honestly, you just dropped it there. Let's do it. It's the most random thing to talk about, right? So it was on SmackDown. LA Knight gets called Sean by Logan Paul because Sean's his real name. Obviously, on that, whatever it was it must have been the same SmackDown, right? You had the whole Nia Jax and Bayley thing when Bayley was like, "Oh, you're not strong. You're a dangerous worker," right? It's all inside baseball, which I'm fine with. But there was something else on. Well, I guess the other end of this, given that we are just coming off the episode of Dynamite last night, I don't know how much you've seen on that, but in the opening bit, you have the MJF promo, and he just references Will Ospreay's dead grandma, which is a thing that happened. Now, I'm always like this, right? If my grandma passed away, let's say you and I were doing an angle, right? And my grandma passed away, and I say to you, bro, hit me with the grandma thing. I don't have a problem with it at all, right? I really don't, because that's up to me how I want to deal with it. But where are you at right now with the constant? Because I think there is an art to inside baseball. I think Cody Rhodes is very, very good at it. I think The Rock is the man at it because it just is his whole persona. And I didn't mind the Shawn one, but when the Nia Jax and Bayley one is the first time in a long time, because usually I don't care, I was a bit like, wait a minute, like that's too much for me because I'm a nerd. And I always want to be able to watch wrestling and go, you wanted it. So when you injure someone, yeah, injure them. But obviously not. But within the realms of the story, that's great because it ties into your character. I guess that's what they did really well with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, right? Because they both injured each other. But now they've turned it into a massive story. It's always one of those things that doesn't matter at all. But yeah, what's your take on that? Where are you at with it?
Tough one, isn't it? Because from inside wrestling, you kind of think, clumsy is a funny old term because, inside wrestling, it's fine to be clumsy. Like John Jones is somewhat clumsy as an MMA fighter because he has an unorthodox style, for example. But that's what makes him the best. So that little dig could easily be turned into like unorthodox or something like that. But that was the first time for me as well where I thought, I don't know how you can relate this back, kayfabe only, into this makes sense, and the same with the Shawn one. The Shawn one was so odd to me because I don't mind it, but it just felt like almost he just said his real name because he was like wanting him to react, like as if he knows him as Sean. He was like, "So Sean," and then it was like it didn't feel like a dig because why would that be a dig to say someone's name? So
that's the thing, right? Yeah, like what that is your name. It's like I'll call. I don't. This podcast is going to become an insider podcast by accident, but it is what it is. When I was doing all the hosting for Progress, I refused to call wrestlers by their real names, and they would always say, "Call me by your real name." I said, "If I do it here, I'm doing it out there.
Exactly.
I'm going to drop your real name, and I don't want to do it." So everybody got worked names, but that was just a weird one because I think it could have gone over a lot of people's heads too. Yeah. I don't think we've even I get it with CM Punk. Phil has just very probably disrespectfully has become a thing. But no, it was just something that I noticed them doing more and more, which I do understand, and I actually don't mind it. I think it's always best to give it a go. And where did we end up, right? But let's just talk about I think we should probably talk about the build to SummerSlam overall. Just give me your headlines, man. Like we're 2 weeks away, right?
2 weeks.
SummerSlam. It's not. Yeah, so it's the weekend after next, right?
Yeah, it's the 3rd of August, I believe, which is like super early, and then the Mania is like super late next year, and then this is super early. I don't know what they're playing around with dates.
Well, they've got 2 pay-per-views in August because you've got Bash at Berlin that comes at the end of August, and that's why I didn't even realize until I was going through pay-per-views the other day. I mean, 100% now I realize that Gunther will probably lose at SummerSlam because then he can go win in Berlin, which is kind of funny. I may get this wrong. I am treading on a tightrope here. He was born in Austria, right? He's actually Austrian.
As like Imperium, the German faction, which was an Italian, a German, and an Austrian.
It's so good.
That's just professional wrestling.
I mean, Drew McIntyre was born in Wales in 2022. Let's not forget that. Do you remember the Clash at the Castle thing? Where it's like, hometown boy. It's like up. You need to go up that way a little bit.
And a lot though, because someone's like from Manchester and in London, they're like their hometown, and you're just like, it's very not. It'd be offending someone.
Yeah, that is true, but it is tiny. I forget how tiny England is until you actually go to America and travel around a bit. You're like, oh, no wonder you see us as peons, because we are just this tiny nothing island, which is absolutely ridiculous. But how are you feeling about SummerSlam, man? Because some people feel like Cody versus Solo isn't a quote-unquote proper main event. I'm going to do that in inverted commas because I think that's mad. But you do have CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre on there, which is arguably the best feud in all of wrestling. Something to be debated for sure.
I don't know how to explain it because, like I said at the start, I'm as positive as Simon is about wrestling. Sometimes I'll watch weeks where I don't realize they're really hating it, and I'm going, "Oh, that was brilliant!" And then I'll go like 2 weeks without listening to another podcast, and I'll listen to a podcast and go, "Oh, people aren't enjoying that. I thought that was really good." I think generally there's 2 ways of looking at it. It looks kind of messy. I don't know if this makes sense to you. And I feel a little bit similar to Wembley. I think we mentioned it in the group chat earlier. I almost feel like there's a couple pieces that could move around to make it an all-timer. Same for Wembley, same for SummerSlam. But I also like the fact they're just trying new things. For example, Damian Priest has been given a world title run that is actually working. His reactions are going up. At the start of this, I've always been a Damian Priest guy, but I mean, he didn't feel the level. But I don't think he's in that Jack Swagger role that people were talking about when he first won it, the Money in the Bank winner. Yeah, but he's I think he's going the right direction. And Gunther is a main eventer, but we haven't seen him main event. And then again with Solo, he feels like he's starting to become a main eventer, but he's not really headlining in front of 70,000 people in Cleveland ready. But I also kind of go, do you know what? I'm glad they're not just throwing Orton and Cody in there because Orton's done all these stadiums. Solo hasn't. This is special for Solo. This is special for Gunther. This is special for Priest. And I don't know. I'm actually starting to really look forward to it because it's very unpredictable.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's my thing is I don't mind people criticizing anything. I really, really don't. But a long-time criticism was WWE needs to build new stars. We need to put new people in these positions. And if you're not going to do that on the quote-unquote pay-per-views, premium live events, whatever you want to call them, you're never going to get there. The only way to do it is trial and error. And actually, I kind of feel like WWE, by choice or by accident, has built in fail-safes. Because even if Cody and Solo, let's say it all goes bad, it happens sometime, it can be a flip of a coin. And it doesn't feel like this stupendous main event that we want from a SummerSlam, or Hot WrestleMania, as I call it now, because they're just desperate. They're just so desperate for it to be WrestleMania 2. They would absolutely call it WrestleMania 2 if they could. And that makes no sense, because because WrestleMania 2 was 1986. WrestleMania 2. But this time, right, let's just say it doesn't work. Oh, well, never mind, we tried. Roman Reigns is absolutely coming back at the end of SummerSlam, so no one is going to remember the match. Nobody's going to care. They just won't. And you just said it, right? Gunther and Damian Priest aren't actually in the main event. They're in a main event slot because it's for the world title, but it's not going to be the last thing that you're going to see. But also, you just said it, man. There is no way that match is not going to be great because Gunther can't have bad matches. And every time Damian Priest is defending that title, think of all the shenanigans that Damian Priest has to put up with. All the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre stuff. The Jey Uso stuff is when the Judgment Day was imploding. He has become like WCW circa 2000s. I mean, that's an exaggeration. But, you know, run-ins and craziness. But he still manages to walk away feeling like a legit badass, like a legit world champion. And every single match has been good. So there is no way, as far as I'm concerned, especially if he wins. Like, I don't mind Gunther winning at all. If you want Gunther to win, then he defends it in Germany. Totally fine. But if he does win and he wins... I think if Gunther is going to win it in a month's time, 3 weeks' time, he can beat Gunther clean because I think it's going to make people go, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. I just think it makes it the coolest thing ever. And then sure, he loses in Germany, and then by Survivor Series, no one's going to remember that Damian Priest. No, let me rephrase that. Whatever power that Damian Priest gets from that match, he will retain, but no one is going to give a flub that Gunther lost 3 months ago. No one will care because you have to move on. And actually, something I think wrestling could do better is reminding people that losing is okay as long as there's a story after the fact. Like all the time now, you get so-and-so lost. Oh, they buried him. No, they didn't. He just lost a match. Losing cannot be the epitome of burial because then we can't do anything with the tools that we're given. So again, I think SummerSlam actually can be... A failure is too strong, but SummerSlam can be an awesome trial and error because they have so many things they can do right after the fact where you'll be like, oh, I can't believe it. Roman Reigns is here or whatever it will be.
I fully agree. But the other nice part about it is, you know, as a fan, completely take myself away and just be a pure fan, is I kind of talked myself into Solo winning at SummerSlam the other day because, you know, you're looking at I think there's a gauntlet on SmackDown for the number one contenders and the Gorillas of Destiny in there. And I thought, oh, they're gonna beat DIY for the titles. And then I looked across and I thought, and Solo's going against Cody. And they're starting the Randy thing. But the Randy thing is very title-based. He's staring at that title. So him screwing Cody would make not much sense that he wants the title. But I started thinking, oh, they want every title on the Bloodline, the Bloodline 2.0 or Wish Bloodline or whatever people want to call it. So I started talking to myself, I was like, Solo's going to win that. But then I thought, they can't just have SummerSlam run normally. Solo beats him with Bloodline help again. And then he just holds the belt up to end it. No Roman, no nothing. And I was like,
can you imagine?
They can't. I don't think they could get away with that. I do agree, though. It's kind of a free hit. It's sold out. Everyone's a star now. Cody is so over that
it's crazy.
It doesn't matter who he wrestles at this point. But I don't know. I taught myself into the Solo one, and I also was watching one of your videos where you said that 100% Gunther's being Priest, you know, and I know you've just kind of said, now I've thought about it, but when I said it, I was like, I genuinely think Priest is going to win. Priest is like beating everyone. Like he's going against everyone, and he ends up either upside down in the ropes, he ends up either not kicking out, which obviously he released a statement on it now, but there's always something very random in his matches, and I love it.
Oh, me too. No, I mean, the Gunther thing, I'm not going to lie, I didn't realise that the Berlin one was so soon afterwards. I just didn't. This was literally a revelation of mine in the past 2 days. This is the problem with recording content and then not getting it live for a few days. Something will happen, you're like, I don't have time to add to that video that's already in the back end of YouTube. No, but I would, obviously, as a lover of chaos, I think it'd be awesome if Solo won and there was no Roman Reigns, because my enjoyment can come from the internet melting down. I get a lot of joy from that because I'm a loser. But no, I mean, I think I did a video about this as well. I don't even mind Roman Reigns coming back and stopping the Bloodline from attacking Cody. Like people go, oh man, it made Cody Rhodes look so rubbish. What? Because he couldn't take on a mini army and Roman Reigns had to come out. Because they're going to split off instantly anyway, right? Let's say it is Roman Reigns that stops the bloodline and then everybody else comes out. That is done. You have the stare off between Cody and Roman, but then Cody goes back into the bloodline civil war that I presume will culminate at Survivor Series, or at least that will be their big match. And then, yeah, that's when Randy Orton is surely waiting for Cody as we go into Survivor Series and Royal Rumble. I would love that match at WrestleMania. WrestleMania just too packed up, which is awesome, right? There's too many matches we need to do at WrestleMania. So the Randy Orton one's going to have to go elsewhere. But again, I apologize to people that watch my content all the time, but you may never have seen this, and I think it's a really good point. I love comics, and Batman and Superman always turn up in each other's shit. they're always there. That's the only swear word I'll drop. It's supposed to be a expletive-free podcast. I've just remembered that. Don't know why I choose that time to break all my rules. But yeah, they're always turning up. And Batman never really likes it. But Superman never really likes it either. But it's the greater good kind of a thing. And I truly believe that we do not need to live in a wrestling world where a babyface can't get help from a babyface because we're worried about who the most over babyface is going to be. That is down to the people behind the scenes in the locker room with hopefully the very healthy competitive environment. That's for you to work out. That's not for a fan to work out. That's for a fan to enjoy. And again, much as I don't want to, it's been spoiled for me already. I haven't seen it, obviously. But it sounds to me like the Deadpool Wolverine movie is a lot like that. Oh my gosh, look who turned up. You get the adrenaline rush. That's what I think people want with. You don't want Roman Reigns to come out and not do anything with Cody. That would suck. That would be like yeah, it would be a mistake. So no, I think that would be really fun. Although I don't mind Solo winning the title at all. And the only thing I don't get is, do you think it's Solo versus Roman at WrestleMania then? Because that to me does feel like a weird match because it's so far away. It
feels so interesting because I thought Mania this year was so good. But it felt like all the stories that came off it, we all instantly jumped to next Mania and then forgot there's 12 months to fill. And I think after Mania, we all accepted Roman Rock, and then we heard rumors that Cody Rock wanted to work Cody next year. And obviously he passed him something in his hand. We still don't know what that is. Maybe it's in the lockbox that we heard about years back that we never got an answer for.
Damn right.
But there's so much to that story that I feel like it has to take all these ebbs and flows. Otherwise, I don't know, it's not going to be ready. And I think next year SummerSlam is more a Roman Solo type of situation. And because you have to bring The Rock back in, Jacob Fatu, we're not sure where he stands, and he looks awesome, by the way. He's got a certain look to him that you think this is a babyface waiting to happen. That is he gonna move over, and then The Rock comes back and all this stuff. Because that's what I like about it is the idea of Roman fighting off the bloodline with Cody back to back. Like you said, it's superheroes. It's back to back. And then once they clear it, they both slowly turn. They look at each other. You get that shot. The crowd goes crazy. And then Roman goes into a thing with the bloodline. Cody and Randy start on SmackDown after. And you just separate them completely. And everyone goes, but it's still there. And therefore, we've got the seeds to Cody and The Rock and their handshake or whatever was inside the handshake. You've got Roman, Cody going face to face. You've got Solo and Roman, obviously, going forward. And then the Randy thing starting, which I think is one of the best stories that is coming because there's actual history to talk about. So I don't think it's Solo versus Roman at Mania. You have to believe The Rock's coming back, but I don't know. It'd be really cool for Solo. But again, like I said, that's what I like about it. It's so unpredictable. It's almost like that SummerSlam years back when Roman did return. What was that?
The 2021.
Yeah. When did it come in? It feels like that again. But
that's true.
There's actually people in the audience this time, though.
Not television screens.
That was such a sad time. I saw a video from that the other day and I thought, oh, what a sad time.
Dude, it's the worst thing I'll ever say. I hate talking about myself like this, but it's the one that I get the most. The amount of people that message me going, thank goodness for your dumb videos through the pandemic because I wanted to just, punch myself in the face. And I was like, well, that's ironic because I was sat there feeling the exactly same way. I was awful. But, I was awful. It just all eras you can go back to, right? Even the mid-90s, there's some funny stuff there, like the characters.
But some would say the best time, yeah.
Repo Man's from the mid-90s, so I'm all in. But I can't go back to I hate the Thunderdome. I hate the Performance Center. And it's nobody's fault. It's just the world. Like, it's why, again, this is not me doing an AEW WWE thing, but it's why the AEW stuff has aired better because they were in a big arena. It was outdoors. There's some fans. It just, even the sound of air makes it feel a bit more alive, whereas WWE it's like what's that word? I can't remember, but it's like being in a funeral home. It's not their fault. I'm not blaming anybody. But going back to the bloodline stuff though, I totally believe we get to Survivor Series, and I always get this wrong. Everyone keeps saying they think The Rock is going to be in War Games. Out into the camera. The Rock ain't in no War Games, man. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? He's got $1 million film contracts. Oh, yeah, I just get thrown into some steel. Totally get it, by the way. Not mocking him at all. But I also think you don't need him because he can still be pulling the strings. But on New Bloodline, I always get this wrong. But you got Solo Sikoa, you got Jacob Fatu, you got Tama Tonga, you got Tangaloa, and Hikuleo, it sounds like, has been signed, right? That's the big rumors. So I imagine you could go on Roman's side, but you don't need to go on Roman's side because that's 5. So the other 5, obviously, would be the Usos, Roman Reigns, and then you can throw in Sami Zayn, which they clearly started to tease on Raw when he went back to, I'm teaming with Jey Uso again. And then you can put Kevin Owens there. You genuinely can because Kevin Owens has been fighting the Bloodline now for flipping 4 years, maybe even 5. Whereas because of what we're talking about, Randy Orton, that's the reason you don't have to put him in there because as soon as somewhere between now and Survivor Series, Cody's going to be dealing with Randy, which is why they don't go into that team. It's like you just said, you could put Cody and Randy in there, not moaning about it, but if they are going to splinter off into their own thing, this is why it's good that it is so layered and why you got to put people like Damian Priest and Solo Sikoa in those positions, because even if they do get a little bit of a rub off it, down the line, you can be like, oh, great, now we can be a bit more Jenga with this and put people in and take people out, whereas if you don't do that, I mean, look what they did with, you just said it, right? Look what they did with Jacob for 2 in, 3 weeks? 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I now totally believe he should be the world champion. It's based on him ruining everyone.
So that's all I want. I just like every week I'm like, just put him like him and Kevin Owens on SummerSlam on the undercard somewhere would just be perfect to me.
Well, it's funny you say that. There is obviously, so spoiler coming up, turn off for 2 minutes if you don't want to hear it. SmackDown was taped last week. So the results are out there. And the Gorillas of Destiny are definitely the brand new #1 contenders. But nobody will confirm whether it's Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu or Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. So right now we have this huge question mark because if you do, listen, I always get confused what they call him now. I think Tangaloa gets a hard rap. He's just had a few mistakes that have managed to take off on the internet.
I have a very strong theory on Tangaloa as well. I like the guy generally. I didn't necessarily follow him much in Japan where people already had a certain thing on him.
So mean to him. So mean.
But the one, I think it was at the pay-per-view. I think it was when he did the low blow way. It was like a jab.
Oh, yeah. And it was like, you had to do it twice.
Watch this with people who very much know what's going on. And the minute Cody did the suicide dive that he caught, he was knocked out cold, comfortably. He hit his head on the announcer's table and his fingers went.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
So from then on, I thought he's got a pass because one, he shouldn't even be doing anything. But secondly, while being that scrambled, still got in at the right time. And then whoever booked the idea of holding a package pile driver but low blowing, the guy's
head right there.
Like he was ruined. Like he must have been so confused anyway. So he thought, do you know what? It's a jab low blow. And then did it and then thought, can't do that. And then went for it, just punched his half brother in the head.
He did punch him in the head. He really did punch him in the head. But also, like, this always winds people up when I say this. That's my favorite part of wrestling, which is why I hate when people get so aggressive about it. That made me howl with laughter. How can that be a bad thing? How can it be a bad thing? It was so funny. It was like, did you see on Raw the Lyra Valkyria Sonya Deville match when Sonya Deville accidentally held on the gut wrench powerbomb and you can hear Lyra going, let go. I love it. That's what I want. That to me is the best inside baseball stuff where it happens and you get that proper emotion. And you always get these damn accounts on the internet mocking them like, nah, man, I need more of that. What's the greatest, I hate the word, but we'll use it. What's the greatest botch of all time? The Shockmaster. That man has made millions, well, not millions, but thousands off that gimmick. And that's good.
I mean, I nearly went there.
But you know what I mean? Like, but if he had actually come in and done it as was, that gimmick would have lasted 6 weeks and we never would have talked about it again. The best thing ever was tripping up. So I don't want to move away from that stuff. But no, I feel sorry for Tangaloa. But the point is, if it is Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, which is fine, I don't care which two it is, that does completely change what we do at SummerSlam. Because you're right, who does Kevin Owens fight? I would imagine it is the Gorillas of Destiny. And that we do Jacob versus... Although, I mean, you could do Jacob versus Kevin Owens, and then what is it? I guess Randy Orton's just not on the show.
Yeah, because and also if you noticed on SmackDown last week, Tangaloa randomly got like his eye gouged randomly, and then right at the end of the show he was selling it. And I was like, they're either trying to get him out of that match that they've already put him in, which I don't know why they would have put him in the first place, or they really want him to wear an eye patch. And then I'm now fixated that I want him to wear an eye patch because I think that would add to the whole aura of that guy.
More people need to wear eye patches. Remember the John Moxley eye patch era? That was good. Didn't Eddie Kingston wear one for a while? Was it Eddie Kingston? Malachi Black definitely did. Do you know why pirates used to wear an eye patch? Apparently, I only found this out the other day. This I just thought because it looked badass, right? Apparently, it's because so they would wear it over left eye when they're on the ship in daylight, because when they would go into the, I don't know what you call it, treasure trove. But when you would go below deck, they would switch the eye patch because then this one's already adjusted because it's been in dark the whole time. But why don't we do, I know we have lights now, but we need to start wearing eye patches again. It's really important.
I think it's very important. And anyone who's listening to the podcast, this Refresh podcast, yes, we went to Pirates. That's where we've ended up.
Look, if some eye patch company wants to sponsor the podcast, I have no morals whatsoever. I'm shameless, man. I shield that stuff. No, I think SummerSlam is going to be a lot of fun. And also, I can see what they're doing. They're absolutely loading it up. It's going to be a really long show, so that when they go to 2 nights next year, they can be like, well, we don't want to overdo the show. I'm in two worlds. Like, I act in my real life, I don't care. It could be 7 nights. Who cares? I just don't care. But in my wrestling nerd life, I'm intrigued to see how it goes. But then again, I was a naysayer about 2-day WrestleMania, and I was completely wrong. 2-day WrestleMania is great. But I don't want 2-day SummerSlam. I don't want 2-day WrestleMania to roll around and feel like it wasn't further enough away from SummerSlam. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it can start to feel normal, whereas I still kind of think like WrestleMania feels special. And also, if you're doing it with SummerSlam, you got to do it with the Royal Rumble. It makes sense with the Royal Rumble because then you can have the women's on one night and the men's on another night. So,
yeah, no, I agree. When they said the 2 nights, I was like, this could be interesting for when it was. But I kind of like, I don't know, what's that show where you have like a specialist subject, you're really good at it. Completely blank.
Oh, Mastermind.
Yeah.
Mastermind.
Mine is WrestleMania. So I know like everything that's WrestleMania. I don't know why. It's something that I fixated as a kid, and it's just now I'm a giant kid. So when it went to 2 nights, I was like, this is just harder for me to remember. Like I was like, what was night 1? What was night 2? What's the main? I couldn't remember. So that was kind of my kind of wrestling geek part of it. But I mean, as a human, I was like, if we had wrestling every night, I'd be happy. Well, we pretty much do. But I mean, I was like, I'm happy to watch wrestling every night. I don't have to watch it all. I could fast forward some. No. I could pick and choose. That's, again, I'm sure we'll get into tribalism as time goes on. But I mean, I'm game to have like, Joe and I, when he's on the show, he'll be more into this. But when we're watching, I can't remember watching, we're watching an A&E doc. And there was a bit where they went into a locker room and it was Taker and Austin going over their SummerSlam 98 match. In this room with Bruce Pritchard, Vince Russo, and someone walked in there, I think it was Triple H or someone, and started talking to them. They showed like 10 seconds of audio and then it cut off and you could see them all talking. And then the camera clearly stayed in that room. And I was like, where's this content? Release 3 hours of people just putting matches together, even if it's just for wrestlers. Just like you were saying about the inside baseball stuff, like with the moves and stuff. I don't know if it is because we wrestle and we realize, like, guess what? Those people are putting a match together with an hour's notice. And then it has to go on live TV, on HD, refs giving time cues and all this. I have like an appreciation to it. Almost, I prefer to see it. And this goes back to when John Cena used to call whole matches to the ring mic, essentially. And people had a real problem with it. And I get it, because if you're living kayfabe only, then it is a bit like, it goes back to Nia Jax with the clumsy thing. But as a wrestler or someone who, like, even before I wrestled, I was, more interested in the Backstage magazine or, the doc that had Triple H coming back from a quad tear, and I was like, that's what his house looks like. That's how Triple H lives. That's not gone, even though I'm in it. Like, so.
Oh yeah.
Give me more of it. Give me everything behind the scenes, and I love it.
Oh yeah, I think we've had this conversation before. I will never get bored of videos where somebody starts at the gorilla position and then walks through the curtain. I will watch those videos. You do 100-hour playlist, I watch every single one. So the fact they've made that their new camera angle now just sends me silly. I love it because we're so used to seeing it from the other angle. I suppose it's just as nerdy as it sounds, it's because you can put yourself in their boots, right? Oh my gosh, this is what it would feel like. It'd be amazing. But no, I love all this stuff. And like the WrestleMania 40 behind the scenes doc came out, and some people were like, it's too much. I think even Cody Rhodes said that's as far as we should go. I'm like, man, put a camera in the Triple H creative meeting. I'll watch all of that stuff.
What do you not want us to see? that doc wasn't an hour for me. That doc was 3 hours. There was a pause every now and then. Why is he?
Oh yeah.
No, honestly, man, like I get it, because it's a whole debate, isn't it? How can you suspend your disbelief when? But I just can. And like, given what I do, it doesn't happen too often, but it happens more often than most people. I will have a show spoiled for me, be it because I accidentally overslept or I check my phone. Usually I try not to check my phone, or I go on the internet just through force of habit, like, and it ruins it for you. When the moment is good, I still get exactly the same feeling. It doesn't affect it for me. If anything, I get more anticipation. Like CM Punk coming back at the Survivor Series got ruined for me, and it just made me want to watch that show. I need to watch it now. Like, it was amazing. It was a great feeling. So I don't mind about that stuff at all. Like, it really doesn't. It doesn't affect how I watch wrestling. Although I totally understand why other people, they need the barrier all time so they can say, no, because I mean, again, we're getting way too off topic here, but I still find it mad. And look, everyone genuinely is entitled to an opinion, but I think sometimes we just need to take the foot off the gas a little bit when you get people like, it was like when that Wyatt 6 photo came out with them at McDonald's after they debuted. People are like, this is terrible. Why are we seeing this? They're just humans, man. Let them have a flipping McDonald's with a fan. I don't care. I just don't. I'm not saying somebody can't. I'm just saying I really try to care. I stretch, but I just don't.
For a picture to be taken. They didn't go, you know, someone get a picture of this. This is a really cool moment.
Right, and given who it's about, Bray Wyatt, I would rather those guys travel together everywhere and had the most unbreakable bond than I ever care about gimmicks or kayfabe or storylines. That's irrelevant to me. I love it, and I think they're doing a great job, but it makes me, because I'm a loser, it makes me much happier knowing they're super friends. That's what I like. That's what I like the most. This
is where, you know, we're not showing our ages. I'm exactly the same. I'm like, I like the fact they get on outside of the ring. When I hear about it, and everyone's like, who cares? It's just a job. And I was like, no, it's not to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I want them to be friends. That's a big thing.
And I love it when they post those pictures. I love it. I remember when Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews got married and they posted a picture. Oh, you've ruined the storyline with Dom. No, you haven't. Well, I tuned on Raw, and to me, I don't know what Rhea Ripley's real name is, but that's her. And then Rhea Ripley. Is Rhea Ripley her real name? It can't be. That's too good of a name.
Demi,
right. There you go.
So there we go. You see, I'm happy to I just am. But if somebody else thinks, no, that's ruining wrestling, I do get it as well.
With that as well. Rhea Ripley's wearing a wedding ring in every segment, and Dom's wearing his wedding ring in every segment.
I didn't even notice that. Isn't that great?
They have done for a long time, obviously, since Rhea's been married. But I mean, I go back to wrestling in general. I think everything can make sense because none of it actually makes sense. So I know on a psychological side, as wrestlers, there's certain things that don't make sense, but certain things that people go, oh, you can't do that. It doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you know, I sent you off the ropes earlier and you ran back at me. And I think the fact that that's such a basic part of wrestling, you very much can't have people have now with the warrior spirit, you know, that guy no-sold it. It's like, my wife literally said to me the other day, Jacob Fatu took a DDT and stood up and she went,
I loved it.
Why is that? And I went, he's Samoan. She went, why? And I said, in the history of wrestling, Samoans, their heads, they don't feel pain in their heads, you know? And she was like, okay. She was like, but Tama Tonga just took a DDT and he didn't get up straight. I was like, it's not as strong a head.
Exactly, yeah. He got worn down. His HP is low. Look, man, going back to that fighter's spirit thing, whatever we call it, I had been involved in one match where I was allowed to do the one kick out, and it's the biggest pop I've ever got in my entire life. I ain't ever moaning, but I don't care if it made sense. I don't care if it was appropriate for the match. The adrenaline rush I got after that justified for the rest of my life.
And also, like I said, MMA, sorry, by the way, you know, Nate Diaz will show warrior spirit in every match because he's bleeding. He's been beaten up the whole match, and then he has like a 5-minute flurry, and he's no selling anything that happened to him. So it's kind of human. Like I said, anything can make sense. There's certain things that are just stupid. You know, the hand back in the day, giving birth to a hand, that was crazy. I still thought it was hilarious, and I still do. But I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But so little does. Like, do you remember in we go back to COVID again? But wasn't there like a snake that attacked the Street Profits and the Vikings in a dumpster or something? There was something like this popped into my.
Dude, I did a whole video on this. We have totally forgotten about that mad street fight when they're in a dumpster and they get attacked by a monster. And it's never explained. But you have the top-down camera. It's never explained. What was that? No idea. Absolutely no idea. Totally crazy. Totally nuts. But look, Everyone knows me. That's my favorite stuff in wrestling. Give me more than that. Give me all the nonsense. Like, there again, going back to the Mae Young hand, I didn't understand it then. I don't understand it now. That may even be too goofy for me, but do it. Absolutely do it. Do more of that nonsense all of the time. It seems to only be wrestling that is able to ironically give birth to stuff like this. So, yeah, you want to keep giving it to me, keep giving it to me. You mentioned the Dynamite show earlier. We should touch upon that just because, just for people wondering, I don't know what the go live date is going to be at the moment in terms of every Wednesday, every Thursday, but we'll figure it out. At the moment, I'd just rather get episodes out there. But as we are filming this after Dynamite, we're just talking about blood and guts, I think. I said to you earlier, really good. I respect any wrestler that puts themselves through that. A little bit worried I'm getting old. And I think maybe it was a bit too violent for me in stages, which I don't often say. So I don't know whether it's because this match was too violent or because I've seen so much of it. I don't know. I think maybe that Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland match from a few months ago did a real number on me. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Maybe I haven't recovered to the point I'm even ready for the teases. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna do it again. I said on Ups and Downs, man, respect it. Do it again if you want to do it again. That ain't for me, bro. That's not my stuff.
It just seems unsanitary, doesn't it? I wouldn't want to do that. I don't know what I mean. And Simon, we're coming from a place where you and I have done thumbtacks in the same match before now. Yeah, and I mean, we're basically deathmatch king.
Oh, absolutely. We're the same level as I say it to everyone. They say, "Give me a level." I'm like Swerve Strickland, Hangman, and Page. And why'd you even ask? Quite clearly.
No one's seen that match, by the way. Go to UPW Plus. But Simon literally drinks someone's blood in the match. It's crazy.
I do, yeah. I do, and I spit it over the audience, which is full of kids. It's real dark. It's real dark stuff. But no, look, I want to point out, I did really like it. I think the Swerve Hangman stuff is my favorite. I think just the small things, right? It's my favorite thing about wrestling. Hangman won't come out. Why? Because he's only in this match because Swerve is in it. Well, Swerve ain't out there, so what am I going to do? I'm going to wait till he's there. Then he comes out and handcuffs him to a cage like a crazy person. That feud is cool. We talked about Batman and Superman stuff. They have a real comic book thing going on. Like when they're in the ring together, I get excited. So I guess that's why the blood thing did work. So I'm like, I don't actually know what you're going to do. And maybe without that, we don't get there. So we kind of had to like power through that. But to me, I didn't massively care that there was no... Let me rephrase that. Absolutely, there should have been some stakes on the line. The winner should have got something. The loser should have lost something. Because I just think that adds to the drama of the match. Because that's the big criticism. But when I was watching it, I was totally invested. But also, Mark Briscoe and Darby Allen are just... I can't even think of the right word. They're just amazing. They're just amazing. And I think this is the real benefit of having... I think it's different now, but to get here, I think we needed both companies. We know that Mark Briscoe would never have gotten a proper shot in WWE because he's been around forever and he never got a proper shot in WWE.
Not aesthetically pleasing was the words they were giving.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts, because I love him and I want him to be my friend. And Darby Allen, just based on his size, he's the first guy to tell you this. You know, back in the day, Land of the Giants, he never would have got... Again, now I think it's different, but I just want to point out back then. And Darby Allen, to me, he's not even a guy... Like, if you said to me, write down the kind of wrestler you like watching. I mean, it changes every day, but maybe someone like Darby Allen... Like, even back in the day, I was more of a Matt Hardy guy than a Jeff Hardy guy. There's no reason to it. It's just what your brain does. You don't know why you're gravitating towards these people. Darby Allen is so good. I can't remember what I thought of him back in 2019, 2020. Right now, he's just the best babyface ever. He's completely courageous. He never backs down. He gets his ass whipped when it makes sense for him to get his ass whipped because he's a small guy compared to other people. But that never say die attitude, and that he's just completely insane trying to set people on fire, I think he's awesome. And I think he complements Mark Briscoe, who has the similar kind of thing, but also feels like... I don't feel like Darby wants to go for a drink with me. I think Mark Briscoe probably would. Darby probably wants to like throw me off a building. But that's the point. They have these tiny shifts. But in that match, I thought those two, apart from Hangman and Swerve, based on their history, but just in terms of their performances, I thought those two were so good.
No, I agree. The Hangman and Swerve, I just think, I mentioned earlier that certain movements around Wembley, Hangman versus Swerve is the match to me. And I know they haven't got a WrestleMania. This kind of is their kind of big show. For me, that is the marquee match. And I mean, maybe it's not exactly ready, but I mean, Swerve versus Daniel Bryan would be an unbelievable match. I'm a big Daniel Bryan fan, Bryan Danielson fan. And I'd love him to have one more title reign. But it almost feels like he's being shoehorned in, like this is his last stadium show, let him have it, which I like. But it's like, you got to strike while the iron's hot, you know, and Hangman and Swerve, I want them to realize that, we have our Rock Austin, our history, that this is going to go on for years. And I don't want it to just be forgotten and then it's done at a Wrestle Dream or something, and then it's done. And you go, I know you got to make every single show interesting, but it's Wembley. You know, this is a giant deal. Go with the hot hand. Similar to like Ricochet potentially coming in and Will's there. And it's just like, you know, could you do something really viral that will get so many eyeballs on the product like it did, 5-6 years ago? But jumping over to Mark and Darby, I'm as a brother tag team, the Briscoes, the Usos, the Hardys, this is mine and Joe's, you know, guys forever. And I'm so glad Mark's getting an opportunity. I think the Briscoes generally should have had an opportunity years back, but I'm glad Mark is getting that kind of, you know, he's headlining TV show. He's on a TV show like weekly. It's amazing. And Darby, it sounds very, I don't know, novice to kind of say it, but he's Jeff Hardy. I know that is a really typical thing.
I know what you mean. Yeah, no, of course.
That kind of quiet charisma that, you know, he's so likable, but it's nothing he says. He's not the best promo in the world or anything. It's nothing. It's just there's something that draws you to it, like unknown thing. Then he backs up with this, just like you said, never say die. Mick Foley had it. Jeff had it. He has it, and you can feel it every time he's out there. You, like you said about Hangman and Strickland, you really don't know what he's going to do. Like if someone's going to suplex him just onto the stairs where the stairs are, you're like, maybe. Will they turn him sideways and just drop him on a corner? Maybe. We've seen him now fall from like 30 feet onto glass. Like there's an unpredictability that gets you kind of. I used to have it with, you know, we're not supposed to talk about it now, but Brock Lesnar when he first came back, he had that match with Cena, and I did by the way, completely disagree, and we'll talk about some headshots in a second, but the Hardway opening him up, he did that to Randy, he did it to Cena. Which is from inside wrestling, anywhere in the world really, because there's still people that don't believe that was real. That's horrific.
The Randy Orton one and the John Cena one, but the Randy Orton one, you can't argue it.
Roman at Mania, he did it. He did with Roman, and it's just except like I couldn't imagine preparing for a match and being like, at the end of it, the biggest, scariest human being alive is actually going to just hit me as hard as he can with his elbow 2 or 3 times until it does open. And we can't predict if the cut's going to be this big or how much is going to happen. And we have to do it right at the end because there's a chance you need to go to hospital very quickly. Like Bret Hart said years back, you know, the art of professional wrestling is hitting someone as hard as you can without leaving a mark. Where are we? Like, what are we doing if we're just going, so, you know, you hit this move, you do that, we hit the finish, you kick out 2, and then I'm going to nearly kill you. And that's the end. He thought, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Great finish, lads. He does. It's true.
It's mad.
Did you mention the chair shot as well? We should probably.
I mentioned the headshot that I think we need to talk about.
The chair shot, right? The scapegoat chair shot. Is that right?
Yeah. Go on. You go first.
Well, I'm just going to point out that apparently the chair was gimmicked, right? That does seem to be we don't know for sure, so it's difficult to kind of, I don't want to say that it is, but that seems to be the general consensus. I was in two worlds with it. I don't like it because of everything that we've learned, but there is a side of my head, ironically, which is like, there is no way, given what I've heard about the Young Bucks and Tony Khan and everyone else, they sat around and went, oh, we don't care about concussions. There's just no way. There's just no way. That's not what they are as human beings. So I'm sure they thought they could pull this off safely. And that's when I start going, am I being worked? Do you know what I mean? Maybe I have actually been worked really well. I don't know. This is the problem. I don't know the answer, but I will say, by and large, the best thing that wrestling ever did was getting rid of chair shots to the head. Look, I'm not saying they're not cool. They were cool. When I was a kid, they were the coolest thing ever. But again,
there's TikToks now, compilations of it, and I will watch all 3 minutes of it, and I'm like, this is crazy.
That's the thing. Now I know too much. So I can't enjoy them anymore because I'm like, well, I know what that's doing to somebody's head. Anyway, you go. Here's your point.
So I didn't know about the gimmick part, but I kind of had an idea just because I've seen it a couple times and back, and he doesn't seem to hit him. It's not the most aggressive. It's not The Rock on Ken Shamrock. Do you know what I mean? That one that we always think of, just in the face. But it makes such a loud noise that I was like, there has to be something up, whether it's 2 bits of like, instead of it being one solid piece, it's 2 bits next to each other. So they just kind of bang together. Like you said, there's 2 parts of me. I don't want to out myself as like an alpha, but I'm like, yeah, good on Jack Perry. But there is that part of my head that I'm like, yeah, I like that. Because, you know, you think of Raven and Tommy Dreamer and ECW with the chair shot, the exact same chair shot that was in the intro of ECW. And it was the coolest thing. But like you said, it's just so hard a mixture of knowing what we know and, like you said earlier, getting older. Because I love horror films, but there's certain horror films now like Hostel, can't watch that. Too real, too upsetting, too gory. But, give me Halloween from 1987. Hell yeah. Because when he does this with the knife, it goes to a different scene and someone goes, ah. And I'm like, yeah, I can figure out the rest. I don't need to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, less is more for sure. I don't know. The thing is,
we should get CM Punk on here and ask him if we think it was gimmicked and what he thinks of Jeff Perry. That's what we should.
This is the thing. Like, again, I truly. Well, no, I'm in about 92 different worlds with this. One, if they want to do it, I don't think anybody should be telling them no. But literally, contradiction in terms. I think there has to be someone who is in control saying no, you're not doing it. That's the issue, right? But again, until I know all of it, but I go through a range of emotions.
CM Punk, he should go up to Jack Perry because I don't think this has happened before, and he should say, Jack, use a fake chair or just don't do it. And he should say, I need a real chair, cry me forever, or something along those lines. You know what I mean?
What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? Absolutely, absolutely nothing. But I think I need more to come out of the wash on that one. Again, even in the moment, it happened, and I went through, it's like three different, awesome, not awesome, oh my gosh, his poor head, what are we doing? You have all of these things, but it always comes down to the fact that I have trust in the people running both companies, that they wouldn't do it unless they truly, not saying mistakes can't happen, we see that all of the time, but they are, I think both sides are super delicate, which is what I always think it should be. I've always said this. If someone gets injured in a match, just end the match. I don't care. Oh, we didn't get a finish. There's bigger things at play. I want people to be able to walk around and live and be healthy. But again, look, we are talking about it, which was the point. So they've achieved that.
There's another part as well, like from Inside Wrestling, is when you bump, a lot of people hit their heads. That happens.
Yeah.
Hit your head a lot harder on a bump sometimes than like a thin steel chair. Like I've been hit with real steel chairs, as you probably have. It's horrid. It's not. I used to watch on TV and be like, "Oh, they're little tins. It's like a Rose's tin from Christmas." It's not. It's horrific. But either way, taking one of them is probably better than taking 10 bumps in a match. And that sounds odd, but realistically, do neither. Probably best for your health.
Yeah, bump properly and don't get hit with a chair, yeah.
Right. And if you get into wrestling, it's like when people talk about like the NFL and all these things. Yeah, there's real scary aspects to it. But there's also an aspect of I knew what I was getting into. The Cody one with Ty Dillinger where it was gimmicked, but half his skull was showing or something. Like,
well, that's the issue, right? Now people think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one was bad because he did get concussed. And again, we know more about concussions. I'm sure Jack Perry got a mini concussion because we learned from any small hit like that. It's the same reason why children shouldn't be doing headers in football anymore because they believe they're tiny little concussions. But again, you can't not do anything. Otherwise, you can't do this in your matches because we're worried about that. And then, it gets to this level. So I agree with you. I think I trust that they done it. He didn't seem knocked out, dazed. He was selling clearly. He didn't bleed, I don't think, from that shot. So maybe there is truth to the thing. But to be honest, if I didn't look online, I don't think I would have questioned it. I think it was once I saw online, I was like, yeah, Jesus, that was bad.
Oh, dude, I get into trouble with this all the time. I don't mention something, and then people are like, how did you not mention this? And I'm like, I never say this, apart from here. I'm like, until you just mentioned this, not once did it ever go through my head that was a thing. Sometimes I just watch very in the moment, right? Especially in a match like Blood and Guts, where we went from that to something else, to something else, to something else, to something else. The finish made me laugh. Like, I said this on Ups and Downs, I keep promoting it, but I don't want people to think I'm just repeating myself. If we were the custodians of the wrestling record, the fictional and fabled wrestling record book, we would have to write down Team AEW wins Blood and Guts after Darby Allen threatens, emotionally blackmails the owner of the company, otherwise he's going to set his friend on fire. That's how he got Matt Jackson to say, I quit. He said, if you don't say I quit, I'm going to set your best friend on fire. That is so absolutely absurd. I think it's the best thing ever. That's the greatest finish to a match of all time, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I have like a book. I don't know if you do it, where you have like every match you've ever wrestled and it has like the finish. Yeah. That's my dream, is to have one written out like that. That's how I want that match. When I was looking online, I think Mex from Wrestle Things and Gorilla Position and that, he had a real issue with that finish because he was like, I didn't need a monologue to end a really good match, and it just fell flat. Whereas it made sense. They got the match finished what they wanted. It made Darby look like a nutter. The finish. it got him a match at Wembley, which we kind of wanted to happen. So it was it was a vehicle for that. So I think it kind of had everything you needed, you know. And I'm not someone who needs a clean. You know, people say, like, "Oh, we need a clean finish." It's like, a finish is a finish. I don't, you know, I don't need, you know, I didn't need Darby to pin Jack Perry and then be like, "Oh, he deserves a title shot." That's a bit kind of. We could do that in any match. Whereas this is a special. It wasn't out the realm of possibility he could set fire to someone in this match. So therefore, I feel like he should.
But that's why I thought it's so good. We have literally seen him set fire to Jack Perry before. So it's not like he means it. Like we genuinely saw it at the last pay-per-view, so he 100% means it. I like finishes like this. If we're going to have 52 weeks of programming of wrestling from NWA run weekly, Ring of Honor, Impact, TNA, AEW, WWE, I mean, New Japan don't run weekly, but if I'm going to consume all of this wrestling, I think all companies should be going, okay, today let's do something different. It doesn't, I actually think it did, I think it did hit, but even if it doesn't hit, who cares? We just move on to what's next anyway. And I'm actually a big fan of this kind of new trend of I quit matches ended with, I'm going to murder you, so you better say I quit. Like we did with Backlash, with whenever the Cody and Clash of the Castle, whenever Cody and AJ Styles had their match, AJ was like, I don't want to get bludgeoned with steel steps, therefore I shall say I quit. And it happened in AEW did. AJ's right, there's a Christian match. I'm going to hit you with this ridiculous, this Mad Max bat. I'd rather not be hit with that. I'll just quit. I like it. I think as long as it's a heel doing it, then, you know, ironically, you can get away with murder. So, no, I thought Blood and Guts was really good. And they also announced MJF Ospreay 2 for All In, which kind of was what we were talking about earlier. I suppose that Ospreay, I think actually is quite smart, really, because now Ospreay can win back the international title in front of his hometown crowd, you know, half an hour from where he grew up. And it's not the world championship, right? So we make sure that we don't. I've got no problem with belts being elevated to the point they feel special. And in fact, really, today in wrestling, the hard part is doing that because there's so many titles that if everybody comes out with a title, you're like, why is everybody got a belt? It doesn't mean anything. But given how good the first one was, I do agree with you. I think Hangman, but I think they're going to do Hangman and Swerve All Out, which is only a week later, 2 weeks later. So that's okay. And Ospreay getting his big moment in Wembley. Again, I always like to think about the person. And that's probably the pinnacle of his career in many ways. Like, I know it's not a world championship, but we still established it. And the interesting thing to me is what do you do afterwards? Because I would love it if AEW did what they never do and they reran it again at All Out. Like AEW, which I do understand, will then make sure you've got one win, you've got one win. Now we're going to separate you so we can come back at some point. I would be perfectly cool. They just went, bam, let's do the rubber match, man. It's very WWE if you want to call it that, but it would feel different to me. So I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I like it all. What do you think about MJF changing the title? Is that kind of a red herring to make you think, oh, he's keeping that for a while, or is it just to sell some belts? Or I don't know what they're doing with that.
I took it as a very short-term thing, just so to make sure he gets booed at Wembley. What's the best way to get booed at Wembley? UK sucks, America are amazing. It's a little bit risky because as soon as he had that big flag with his face on it and all the red, white, and blue balloons, everyone was cheering him because, of course, it's the most patriotic American thing ever. But I think if anyone can handle it, it's MJF. But, you know, it's a good point. It could be a trick. And maybe he does actually win at Wembley and he carries on with that championship. I wouldn't mind that so much. But to me, I kind of feel like it's going to be like a month thing. And then I hope so, because I just don't want 2 extra belts. That's my worry. I worry we're going to get the American Championship and we're going to get the International Championship. I just don't need more titles.
There's so many on AEW. Like, I know it's because they have the Ring of Honor connection as well. So, and then they also have a connection to like CMLL
and New Japan, yeah, of course. And people are always... It's not even about having too many belts. It's just that when you sit there, everybody comes out with one. And then after a while, it just becomes commonplace, and that shouldn't be the way. But look, I think the WWE, they have way less belts. I think they have too many belts. I've always been an advocate for 1 world champion, 1 set of tag team champions, and then 1 mid-card champion. And that's why, man, we should absolutely be bringing in the Intercontinental and US title for women. I think it's mad that we haven't done that. But it would be so much better, and it had so much more impact if we did only have 1 mid-card, a men's champion, and now we've introduced the mid-card women's championship. They'd be so much better. It just is, in my opinion. And look, it doesn't really affect WWE, and by that metric, you can say, well, actually, it doesn't. It's not. That's not the reason AEW isn't doing whatever the hell they want to do. It's not because of championships. Because if that was the case, WWE would flip. No, sorry, WWE would not be experiencing the success they are experiencing. They have a championship for everyone. That's just a pet peeve of mine, right? I would prefer it if we had less belts. I just think it means more.
Yeah, it's kind of like that with boxing. Like, I think originally why a lot of people switched to, and this isn't the only reason, but people switched to UFC was, you know, there was 5 weight divisions there were the 5 champs. There's the rankings. It was very easy. If you follow boxing, this guy's got 9 belts. This guy's got 6. This guy's got 3. He can't fight him unless he drops 3 of them and then takes these 2. And you're like, how do you follow this? You just wait for matches. And I think AEW and WWE feel a little bit like that at the minute. And again, naturally, UFC added more weight divisions and all these things and crossovers and all sorts. But yeah, I don't like it when someone's like, oh, this is the TBS champ, but she's also New Japan Strong and she's also CMLL. And you're like, what one's the AEW one? Like, and I'm someone who should know. So if I was 8 or 9, I would definitely be like, what's happening? What are these AEW titles? I wouldn't know. And it's only because of the graphic or the Tony Schiavone says something. But I don't know. It's just
but you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Wrestling is for children, right? It's rare that you find someone that didn't get into wrestling when they were a kid. So what else do kids like? Mortal Kombat, right? And in Mortal Kombat, what you have the thing. We have Goro on top, and then you have the squares. That's what it should be like when you get a title. You got to be this guy to get to that guy, to get to this guy, to get to that guy. But if all of a sudden in the middle, you then get a trinket, here's a piece of cake. You know, I don't want my cake yet. I haven't got to the tippity top. I just think sometimes simple is more. But again, it's such a non-issue. I don't care. I won't think about it. I won't think about it again. But it's a very good point. Maybe if MJF beats Ospreay in Wembley and they get rid of the international title and keep the American championship, I won't mind because I would appreciate the balls of it. That's a real ballsy move. That's a real, I like people taking risks because Will Ospreay is a all-time, if you like what Will Ospreay does, I have to watch my words with this. People, I don't like his wrestling. You know, you're completely allowed not to. I sometimes hear other people talk like that. And you're like, that's true. It shouldn't be all-encompassing. But the way that I look at wrestling, genuinely, Will Ospreay changed the game. He's one of these guys that we'll look back on and he will be someone we go, holy crap, he opened the door for all this amazing wrestling. Therefore, doesn't actually have to win or lose, doesn't actually have to win. He should do from a business point of view because it will be good for people in the product. But in terms of him and this stupid word of burying, it's already too late. Sorry, friends. He's already going to be a person we talk about for 50, 60, 70 years when it comes to pro wrestling. He just is.
Well, he is. I think people can not like his style, for example.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
It's, for example, Kurt Angle is unreal. I don't often go and watch Kurt Angle matches because he wasn't one of my guys growing up. But I will watch a Mick Foley match or a Hardy Boys Christian match. But I wouldn't ever say Kurt Angle's rubbish. That's why I don't watch it. So with Will, I think anyone that watches wrestling or has watched wrestling for longer than a week, you should be able to go, Will Ospreay's very good, but he's not my favorite.
Yeah.
I think the whole, he's not good, he is good. It's like, no, he's good. Like, I don't even think there's an argument there anymore because I think he gets tarred with the brush of how he was 6 years ago, which was he's a flippy guy, which is such a silly term. Like, it's like calling Rey Mysterio, oh, he's just a lucha guy. It's like, no, he's just a world-class wrestler. Will now is one of the best at selling the stories he tells. His promo, by the way, is very good. Like, I think he's one of the... He's him and Swerve and maybe Hangman are the 3 best things I think AEW have ever done. As far as when they signed Will, I thought, okay, interesting. I'll see how this goes. He feels like a attraction, like Cody does to WWE, but he comes out to reaction. He builds it. He even has like WWE style catchphrases like bruv and the music that does the thing. Because we've seen with Sasha, for example, they really want the CEO thing over, and I don't think it necessarily always connects at every venue they go to. Whereas Will's music, that like build up and then, oi, that does, it's built to a thing where it feels, the best compliment I can give it is it feels very WWE. And like we were saying earlier, AEW does need to be different to WWE, but he's the perfect example of he's WWE level, but he's in AEW. And that's how an AEW top level talent should look, like Swerve. And I don't know if that makes full sense, but
no, I know what you mean.
It's different, but it's the same, but I like it.
Bryan Danielson is a perfect example. Top guy in WWE, top guy in AEW. He does actually do things a lot differently now, but he understands how to, there's a different way to approach those two, and they know how to do it. That's why Hangman is one of my favorites. I think Hangman could be the best character in all of wrestling in terms of his motivations, and in terms of if you want a character that does not give a crap about good guy and bad guy, and it's all about, he's like Joel from The Last of Us, which is the craziest, but Joel from The Last of Us knows what he wants, and he doesn't care about what is good, what is bad. This is what I want, and this is what I believe I I deserve, and therefore I'm going to do it. It's why I think The Last of Us is one of the best games ever, as I knock my camera, because you're almost in control of a real person, but you don't get to decide. He won't do anything that's outside of his emotions, his morals, even though some of his morals are terrible, but that's what he believes. Hangman has shown time and time again, like when he screwed over the Young Bucks to help the FTR because he thought, was it whoever it was, he screwed over the Young Bucks because he thought that was the right thing to do for him. And so even in a blood and guts match, he's like, no, I'm here to beat up Swerve. Therefore, I'm going to beat up Swerve. I don't care about anything else. He's such an interesting, for someone that at first it was just going to be like, "Way cowboy, woohoo!" He's way more than that, and that is the kind of stuff that I loved. And again, you mentioned it; it's the same with Cody. People just act like Cody's super duper mega babyface. He's not, man. If you listen to him and the way he talks and the way he brings emotion in there, it's an actual person. That's why he's so interesting to watch, because you're like, "Oh wow, you're fascinating to me." Same with Randy Orton. He definitely does it. Randy Orton is this weird, layered kind of a dude. I think that's why John Cena did so well as well. But I think that's why Bryan Danielson is so good, why Swerve Strickland is so good. You actually get into it. Swerve especially. Swerve kidnapped a kid. He kidnapped a kid last year, and now he's the biggest over babyface ever. So
with Swerve, his song is "I Swerve When I Drive." And everyone's like, it's like, you shouldn't. Don't do that.
But they're the kind of people I think that are just going to be magnificent wherever. I mean, there's other reasons you could do both as well. But yeah, when I actually see people like that, I'm like, you just feel like real people, which is awesome. And I think that's why Roman Reigns is kind of different, because Roman Reigns almost feels like, he does feel like a endo level boss, a mafia guy. But that's why Roman is extra cool, because with Roman, you just don't change anything and you just change his opponent. So before he's fighting Cody, we don't like you. Now he's fighting Solo. Well, we like Roman. And Roman, that's probably why Roman is the actual, or at least to this point, was a tippity top guy, if that's how we look at the wrestling hierarchy. Because Roman was always, I don't know, I can't describe Roman Reigns. I think that's a good thing.
Aura. That's really what kids say now. I think aura.
I know, right? Yeah.
Aura and cinema apparently is the
cinema. I'm done with cinema. I think I've even said it as well. And I think, as I said, I caught myself.
I've never said it. That's the first time I've said it. So I'm very happy I said it in a disparaging way. I'm very proud. But that just means I'm old, man. That means I'm old. It means I'm taking the mick out of things that kids say. I don't want to be that guy.
Kids say aura.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm also on a podcast about wrestling, so it's all very confusing.
What do we do?
But honestly, I think that to finish on a super positive, I think it's awesome that we get SummerSlam in a couple of weeks and then All In like 2 weeks after that. I think that's some real good wrestling. And because I will presume that All In ends with Bryan Danielson being the world champion. I think we will do that. And then I think SummerSlam ends with Cody holding on to his belt thanks to Roman Reigns. These are good endings that I want. They're very, very different. One is very storyline heavy. One is very legacy heavy and championship heavy and, dare I say it, sports heavy. And I think that's a good position to be in. I know I don't care about ratings, but I find them fascinating. Really happy that AEW did a better rating last week. I hope they do it this week. WWE continues to kill it. On fire. Just makes it easy for me to watch because it's all like happy times and peaches and cream.
And a special shout out to TNA, because I thought that's been... The last couple of weeks, I thought it's been brilliant. And that crossover NXT, that couldn't be going better, I don't think.
It's awesome, right? Also, how ridiculous is it? People, I can't believe they only sold some Slammiversary tickets were $10. All right. You see, I've got PayPal. You can send me the $90 that you wanted to give them. I put it in, and then you would have spent it. How can you get mad at a company for offering you really fair, cheap tickets? World is crazy.
Yeah. No, and also, like you said, we'll put our PayPal link underneath this video. So if you do feel that way, feel free to send the residuals this way.
Absolutely. If you feel like, I can't believe that aired on free television, you can send the money to us. We'll take it.
And we understand. Just be quick with
Absolutely.
it.
Chuck it across. Right, okay. So there it is. What am I calling it again? The PWP. The Positive Wrestling Power Podcast. There you go.
The PWP.
God, that is a mouthful.
I know. I just call it PWP. I don't know what I was thinking here. I'm just thinking about merchandise. Proper wrestler. How can I brand this? But before you go, Scott, tell them where they can find you and all that stuff.
You can find us at TBA Wrestling. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Is that Twitter? Is it X? The kids call it X now, Simon, right? The kids.
They do. That's right. They do, yeah.
We're on TBA Wrestling on TikTok, and we're Gunners Are Us on TikTok as well.
Yeah, that's right. Of course. Yeah, check out the Arsenal podcast, which I have to get back on at some stage. That's a whole long story. We don't need to talk about it there. But the point is this. It will be going live at least once a week. We'll definitely figure out a day. We'll hammer it out. There may be some elements of this that look a bit weird. Don't worry. Again, we're all trying to figure out what the best thing to do is. But yes, for all the nice people that keep saying, Miller, bring back the podcast, bring back the podcast. This is now the podcast. You're seeing it on my YouTube channel. Subscribe. It's on the audio feed as well. So at the moment, search for Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. That will obviously change, but I'll keep all the tags the same so you'll still be able to find it. You won't lose it or anything like that. And it's just going to be like this. Some days we'll probably talk about something more specific. Sometimes we'll probably just talk about a lot of nonsense. But the whole point is it's going to be positive wrestling. My YouTube channel has turned into a wrestling channel now. That's positive wrestling. Doesn't mean that we're not going to be critical. People seem to get confused about this. It doesn't mean that we're just like, oh, everything's amazing. That's not being positive. That's being stupid. There's a big difference. But the point is we will always... It's just wrestling, and it's not that important, even though it is super important at the same time. But yeah, of course, if you want to go into iTunes or podcast, whatever it's called now, it'll be on Spotify, it'll be everywhere. It's the same feeds as before. So whatever your podcast app of choice is, you'll be able to find it. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, all of my stuff is in the description below. You know the deal. But thanks for joining me. Today is the 25th of July, which means we'll be back at some point next week, but I don't know when. But if you subscribe to everything... Well, exactly, but SummerSlam preview. So if you subscribe, you'll know when it goes up. So hit the notification bell, subscribe to all of that, and that'll be that. Take care, my friends. See you on the next one.